I'm going to talk in general for just a minute about why I write about this culture. I have 2 previous books on Appalachian folkways. The first one came out in 2012, and it's called Stalbs in Ditchwater. And I started writing that because these practices seemed to be fading as the culture was fading. So y'all know that for a long, long time, the Southern Highlands were separated from a lot of the dominant culture simply because of the way the mountains are set up and because of the general feeling of the people here who just want to be left alone. So until we started to get the TVA's rural electrification, a lot of things did not change on these little hill farms. Subsistence farming is really hard, and there are young people now that are doing that. In fact, I'm not a young person, but I do a fair amount of subsistence level farming myself. But the other techniques, the techniques for healing and what we would call magic techniques, though most of the practitioners would not use that word, they felt to me like I used to know a lot of people who did that, but then I didn't anymore. So the older generation felt like it was dying out. So the people who were my grandparents and great-grandparents' generation, and I was not in touch with a whole lot of people who were doing this. So I did this paper at Harvard called Hill Folks Hoodoo and the Question of Cultural Strip Mining. And I was obviously very proud to present at Harvard. And ironically, the bed and breakfast I stayed in while I was there had been owned by the cartoonist who did Little Abner. So there was this real kind of sense of the rural urban stereotype clash of, well, hey, look, this little girl raised in a cove in West Buncombe County, she's talking in Harvard. Ain't that amazing? And you hear the stereotype and all of that because part of that paper, which is in my first book, Stalks in Ditchwater, in part of that paper, I just announced that I am your worst nightmare. I'm an educated redneck. I have a terminal degree in my field. I have a Master of Fine Arts, but I also am deeply rooted in my culture. And those two things often in the mind of the outside world, those two things often don't go together. So I wanted to write down as much of this stuff as I could. And that forced me to face a lot of things about what I knew about the culture and what I knew about how the greater culture considered this culture.